She has been a fiery defender of Donald Trump's administration, but not for much longer, at least in public. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt says she's quitting at the end of the month. The 28-year-old is the youngest person to hold the job. Now she says she's leaving to spend more time with her two young children. Although Trump says she'll be one of his top outside advisors. Now, Leavitt was unapologetic in berating the White House press corps, clashing repeatedly with journalists from what she called the fake news media. Here's a sample.
If we feel that there are lies being pushed by outlets in this room, we are going to hold those lies accountable. He calls out fake news when he sees it. He gets frustrated with reporters when you lie about him. It is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America, and I'm not sure why news outlets don't want to call it that. This political violence stems from a systemic demonization of him and his supporters by commentators, yes, by elected members of the Democrat Party, and even some in the media. Why was Renee Good unfortunately and tragically killed?
Are you asking me my opinion? Because an ICE agent acted recklessly and killed her unjustifiably.
Oh, okay. So you're a biased reporter with a left-wing opinion.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah, because you're a left-wing hack. You're not a reporter. You're posing in this room as a journalist.
All right, from the Gulf of America to left-wing hacks, that was a sample of Karoline Leavitt's attacks on the mainstream media. Earlier, I spoke to our Washington, D.C. correspondent, Misha Komodovsky, about how she changed the way journalists cover the White House.
Well, Brent, during her time as press secretary, more journalists started attending press briefings in that very small room, while the number of seats stayed the same. It might seem extremely large, but it's actually much smaller in real life. We also saw bloggers, vloggers, mostly conservative influencers get access to the briefing room, with some even starting their questions by praising President Trump. She, I have to say, fundamentally changed the dynamic between the White House and the press corps. She is much more aggressive in confronting reporters, as we just heard. She is especially more confronting against reporters who she believes are hostile to the administration. That's what we've just heard as well, and that has made press briefings more openly combative, I have to say. But I think the bigger change is that journalists have had to adapt to a White House that is much more willing to challenge, I have to say, the premise of the question, attack the credibility of individual reporters and fellow journalists, and use the briefing room as a platform to speak directly to the president's supporters. She has been an extremely loyal ally of President Trump. You're right, Brent. And I've spoken with a couple of folks from the White House who say that they don't know, they have no idea of who could fill her shoes next.
Yeah, and she's saying that this is about spending more time with her family, but, she just recently came back from maternity leave, and there are reports that she had been considering leaving for some time. What are you hearing about what, drove this decision?
Well, the biggest immediate factor appears to be the reality of returning from maternity leave and trying to balance two young children with one of the most demanding, I have to say, jobs in Washington, D.C. She herself said that after returning, she realized she could not give her children enough attention, what they deserve, while giving the job the constant time and energy it requires. But President Trump has made clear she will remain a close outside advisor. So it's not an exit from the Trump world in its entirety. It seems it's more like a move away from the daily grind of that press briefing room.
What do you foresee in her immediate future? And I'm thinking about the midterm elections that are rapidly approaching.
As for her future, there is a well-established track record of former White House press secretaries moving into television. Just checking here, Jen Psaki, who served under the Biden administration, is now a host on MS Now, while Kayleigh McEnany, who served under President Trump during his first term, she is a Fox News host. So it wouldn't be surprising to see Karoline Leavitt remain in Trump's orbit as, say, a Fox News contributor, or take on a larger role in conservative media.
Yeah, we'll be watching to see what happens to her. Misha Komodowski, as always, Misha, we appreciate your reporting. Thank you.
Let's bring in Mark Shanahan from Surrey University here. He specializes in U.S. presidential politics. Mark, what do you make of Karoline Leavitt quitting as White House press secretary? Does this come as a surprise?
I think the timing is a bit of a surprise here. She went off on maternity leave in April, and if she decided to step down at that point, I don't think that would have been too much of a surprise. Even if she'd have decided in July that she wasn't coming back, I think people would have accepted that. But she's come back, and she's been back for about a month and has now quit, or said that she's quitting at the end of this month. So yeah, there is a little bit of a surprise to that, and I wonder if there may be a story behind it.
What does this mean for President Trump? How much did he rely on Leavitt as a spokesperson and advisor?
It means quite a lot, actually. This will be quite a big loss for him. In the first term in the White House, we just got used to the revolving door, people not being in post for very long at all. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, actually, the press secretary who was there for 2 years, is the longest serving press secretary under Trump. Karoline Leavitt was in the room where it happened. She was in the major meeting. She saw what was going on and became an excellent surrogate for Trump when she came into the press briefing room and stood up to that podium. She really was very good at mimicking the style and the tone of her boss and delivering his messages in quite a powerful way. Now, it's really interesting listening to her. The truth crosses paths with her on occasion, but she will make statements in the way that the president does, and the truth gets relegated to second best. She certainly is not there to answer the media's questions or to enable them to hold the president to account. She is there to give this administration's message and to drive it home hard, and she was very good at that.
Well, it must be said that Karoline Leavitt is a prominent voice in the Republican Party and the MAGA movement in her own right. She's run for Congress before. Can we expect her to continue pursuing a political career?
I'm sure she will. There is virtually nobody who speaks MAGA in the way that she does. She really has the style and the tone and has caught the ear of the MAGA audience, who largely love her. As you say, she ran for Congress in 2022. She was unsuccessful, but that was in a Democrat district in New Hampshire. I suspect in a few years' time she will reappear on the political stage. I don't think she'll go away. I'm sure she's got a career in conservative media before that. But I think she will be back in politics. And if she finds the right district, and I'm sure if the Trumpist wing of Republicanism is still riding high at the time they will find her the right district, she will be back in Congress. Then it is interesting to see what's the Leavitt message, what's Leavitt policy, because at the moment we are finding her to be very, very good at parroting the thoughts and ideas of somebody else. So how does she stand on her own?
So don't write her off. Any idea who the next White House press secretary might be?
Tricky one to call. I wouldn't look too much further than Fox TV. Trump has quite the penchant for drawing people in from that particular right-wing channel to act within his cabinet and to take up some of the interesting jobs around him. But if we look at Trump 2.0 and this last year, he has sacked or forced to resign 5 prominent women now. And I think all but one have been replaced by men. So it wouldn't surprise me if the next press secretary was a man and if he came from a right-leaning broadcast background.
Now, Donald Trump says that Leavitt will remain a top outside advisor and continue to play a role in the Republican Party ahead of the midterms. Could she actually end up being more influential outside the White House than she has been inside?
If she has the guardrails taken off her, if she doesn't just have to spout the president's message, it could be quite interesting to hear what she has to say. She has been the one in the room. As I said before, she's been very close to the president. She has had his ear. He tends to say that people will be advisors to him when they leave the White House. It doesn't tend to happen very often. But I'm sure the conservative media will be at her door very, very quickly, looking for her to take part in their shows to try and boost the Republican Party as it heads towards the midterms. I'm sure a lot of candidates would like to have her out on the stump with them. Trump isn't going to be on the ticket this time round, but he is going to dominate this election. If she can be something of a Trump whisperer out there, yes, she could be influential, and I'm sure she will be.
Mark, thank you very much. That was Mark Shanahan from Surrey University.